In this box lies the lost diamond ray of disappearance.
The diamond ray? But that makes those who see it.
I know what it does, Furface.
Now, before we get into the list, here's something your parents probably knew but never bothered to tell you. In 1984, the FCC, that's the Federal Communications Commission, under the Reagan administration relaxed its rules around children's television programming. What that basically meant was that toy companies could now fund entire cartoon shows built around selling their products directly to kids. Your parents called it shameless commercialism. We called it the golden age of Saturday morning television. And you know what? We were not wrong.
The same fate awaits all who stand in my way, especially He-Man.
These cartoons were events. You planned your week around them. Missing an episode wasn't just disappointing. It was basically a social emergency. You'd spend the entire next day at school trying to get someone to describe what happened, scene by scene, because there was no rewinding, no streaming, no YouTube. If you missed it, you missed it. And that made every single episode feel precious. So today we're counting down 5 of the most legendary cartoons from that era. The ones that made an entire generation of kids move faster getting home than they ever moved at anything else in their lives. And stick around, because part 2 is coming soon with 5 more. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. All right, let's get into it. Cartoon 1, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, 1983.
You have saved Eternia.
And us. Thank you.
There was only one place to start this list, and that place is Eternia. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe launched in 1983, and within about 3 episodes, it had completely taken over the planet. Every kid knew the name. Every kid had an opinion on the toys. And every kid, and I mean every single one, had at some point picked up a random object, held it above their head, and yelled about the power of Grayskull. The premise was wonderfully straightforward. Prince Adam was a regular guy who lived in a castle and had access to a magical sword. But still, whenever Skeletor and his crew came threatening Castle Grayskull, Adam would raise his sword, lightning would strike, and out would come He-Man. Muscles, confidence, a slightly deeper voice, completely unrecognizable from Prince Adam, despite being the same person with the exact same face. How did nobody figure that out? We never questioned it. We were 7. We had bigger things to worry about. That transformation sequence was pure television gold. The raised sword, the lightning, the declaration, I have the power. You felt it in your chest every single time. And then immediately you were scanning the room for something, anything, you could recreate that moment with.
He-Man, be careful!
Broom handles, rulers, curtain rods, cardboard tubes. Nothing in your house was safe from being temporarily repurposed as the Sword of Power. And then there was Skeletor. Can we just take a moment to properly appreciate how incredible Skeletor was as a villain? He had a skull for a face, a staff that shot magic, an entire army of loyal followers, and somehow he lost every single episode. His insults were legendary. His evil laugh was theatrical perfection. His frustration after each defeat was almost relatable. You almost felt bad for him. Almost. He-Man was also the blueprint for the toy-driven cartoon formula that would dominate the decade. Bright character designs, instantly recognizable heroes and villains, clear good versus evil storytelling, and a toy aisle that had literally every single character, vehicle, and playset from the show waiting to drain your parents' wallets. It wasn't subtle. It was a masterclass. As for the legacy, Netflix brought the franchise back in 2021 with Masters of the Universe. Revelation, a more mature take clearly aimed at the adults who grew up watching the original. And a live-action He-Man film has been floating in development hell since the early 2000s, with various studios attached and detached over the years. As of 2024, Netflix quietly dropped their planned live-action adaptation, so the movie is still waiting to happen. But the original cartoon? Completely untouchable. Absolute legend status. And the power? Still very much ours. Cartoon 2, Care Bears, 1985.
It's not fair! I
Okay, we are making a sharp left turn here. We're going from swords and muscles to rainbows and feelings. Because up next is the squad that proved you could absolutely weaponize caring and somehow make it the coolest thing on television. The Care Bears arrived in 1985, and these colorful little bears living up in Care-a-Lot immediately took over our screens, our toy boxes, and honestly, whether we admitted it or not, a little piece of our hearts too. Here's something that genuinely surprises people. The Care Bears didn't start as a cartoon. They didn't even start as toys. They started as greeting card characters. American Greetings, the same company behind Strawberry Shortcake, created them for their card line first. Cards became toys, toys became a cartoon, and then suddenly this little greeting card concept had one of the most recognizable franchises in children's entertainment. A reverse journey that almost never works. This one absolutely did. Their whole setup was straightforward and kind of brilliant. Colorful bears, each one representing a specific emotion or value, lived in clouds above the earth and came down to help kids deal with their problems. And when things got serious, they lined up, focused their energy, and unleashed the Care Bear stare. Concentrated beams of emotion shooting from the symbols on their tummies directly at whatever was causing trouble. Concentrated emotion beams as a conflict resolution strategy, and it worked every single episode. Now for a show about fluffy bears who live in clouds. The villains were genuinely unsettling. No Heart looked like the Grim Reaper decided to try community theater. Professor Coldheart could have walked straight out of a Dickens novel. And Darkheart from the first movie? That character gave a lot of children trust issues they're probably still quietly working through today. But here's what Care Bears actually did that was genuinely radical for the time. In an era completely dominated by action heroes, explosions, and laser battles, here was a show telling kids, boys included, that having feelings was not just okay, but actually something to be proud of. That caring about people and things was a form of strength, not weakness. In 1985, that was a quietly revolutionary message. They also invented something we take for granted now: personality-based identity for kids. Everyone had a Care Bear they identified with. You didn't just watch the show. You had a bear. You were that bear. The quiz didn't exist yet, but we were all already sorting ourselves. I was aiming for Braveheart Lion. The universe gave me Grumpy Bear. We're not going to unpack that today. The franchise has been rebooted twice. Care Bears. Welcome to Care-a-Lot in 2012, and Care Bears. Unlock the Magic in 2019. The designs got refreshed, the stories got updated, but the core message stayed exactly the same. Feelings matter. Caring about things takes courage. And emotional honesty is never something to be embarrassed about in a world that sometimes really needs to hear that. These bears keep finding new audiences. And honestly, good for them. Quick pause before we keep going. Drop it in the comments right now. Were you a He-Man kid, a Care Bears kid, or are you about to reveal that you were secretly a couch-based ninja? Because our next entry is about to find out exactly who you are. Cartoon 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1987.
Okay, lady, put all your money in a bag.
Will that be paper or plastic?
Don't be a wise guy. Just do it.
All right.
All right, grab a slice. Crank the theme song. Because the next crew on this list made living underground in a sewer sound like the most genuinely aspirational lifestyle a kid could imagine. Cowabunga, it's turtle time. In 1987, somebody walked into a meeting and pitched the following concept with a completely straight face. 4 turtles mutated by radioactive ooze, named after Renaissance artists, trained in martial arts by a giant rat, fighting a villain whose armor looks like someone welded a cutlery drawer to a samurai, and their main hobby is eating pizza. That pitch should not have worked. It should have been laughed out of every room it entered. Instead, it became one of the most successful animated franchises in history. Because of course it did. The theme song did all the heavy character work in about 30 seconds flat. Leonardo leads. Donatello does machines. Raphael is cool but rude. Michelangelo is a party dude. Done. 4 complete character profiles delivered via earworm before the episode even started. That's efficient storytelling. Now we need to talk about the pizza. The turtles didn't just eat pizza. They made pizza feel like the most exciting, adventurous food in human history. Michelangelo didn't simply enjoy pizza. The man had marinara sauce running through his veins. He ordered it with the kind of passion most people reserve for major life events. Half the reason pizza became the default food of an entire generation's childhood is because 4 mutant teenagers made it look like the greatest thing anyone could ever put in their mouth. No notes. Shredder was a genuinely threatening villain. Intimidating design, clear menace, actual combat skills. Krang was something else entirely. A villain who was literally just a disembodied brain living in the stomach of a giant robot, screaming orders from Dimension X. That shouldn't work as a character concept. Krang made it work completely. The Foot Clan, supposedly elite trained ninjas, lost to 4 teenagers every single episode without fail. Commitment to the bit. What's fascinating is that the original TMNT comics by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were actually black and white, significantly darker in tone and much more violent. The cartoon completely reinvented the property, added the bright colors, the pizza obsession, the jokes, the sillier villains, and that version became the cultural phenomenon that launched 1,000 lunchboxes, video games, breakfast cereals, and one truly unforgettable live concert tour where the Turtles played instruments in front of thousands of screaming children. The staying power is remarkable. The 1990s live-action films with those incredible Jim Henson creature suit effects, the 2014 Michael Bay reboot, and then the genuinely excellent Mutant Mayhem in 2023. Fresh animation style, actual teen voice actors giving these characters real energy. A love letter to the original that still felt completely new. A sequel is already confirmed, and a Paramount Plus animated series is in development. The shell never stops, and honestly, it shouldn't. Cartoon 4, Inspector Gadget, 1983.
And what brings you to Winterland, young lady?
I'm here with my uncle. Oh, look! There he is!
All right, we're switching gears again. From ninja pizza enthusiast to the world's most lovably incompetent cyborg detective, a man who has a gadget for literally every possible scenario except the one gadget that would actually help him. Basic situational awareness. Go-Go Gadget, it's Inspector Gadget. The concept was elegant in its absurdity. Inspector Gadget was a bionic police inspector packed full of incredible technology. Helicopter hat, extending arms, built-in gadgets for every conceivable emergency. Chief Quimby would hand him a self-destructing briefing, always from some ridiculous hiding spot, always blowing up in the chief's own face, and off Gadget would go to face the evil Dr. Claw and the agents of MAD. And then his 10-year-old niece Penny and her dog Brain would solve the entire case, every single time, without credit, without acknowledgement, without Gadget ever once realizing what was actually happening around him. The gadgets themselves were half the entertainment. Go-Go Gadget arms. Go-Go Gadget helicopter. Go-Go Gadget. Oh, that one's malfunctioning and making things significantly worse. The show had an important underlying truth buried underneath all the comedy. Technology is full of tremendous promise, consistently prone to failure, and somehow your dog is always handling the situation better than you are. But let's give Penny the recognition she has always deserved. This girl was a genuine technological visionary operating decades ahead of her time. Her computer book, essentially a tablet with internet capabilities in 1983. Her smartwatch, predicting wearable technology long before Silicon Valley figured it out. Between her tech skills and Brain's masterful disguise work, these two were running a sophisticated covert intelligence operation in the background of every single episode, while Gadget wandered around having no idea what was happening and then accidentally stumbling into the solution. Inspector Gadget got all the headlines. Penny and Brain saved the world. If that dynamic feels familiar to anyone's professional experience, I'm not going to comment on that. And Dr. Claw, the villain we never actually saw, just the metal-gloved hand, stroking the cat, delivering that growled promise at the end of every episode. I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time. When toy companies eventually released an action figure that revealed his face, the collective disappointment was measurable. Some mysteries should stay mysterious. The show's creators made the right call keeping him in shadow, and every attempt to reveal him has proven they were correct. The franchise returned with a CGI animated series in 2015 that ran for 4 seasons and 78 episodes. bringing the bumbling inspector to a whole new generation of kids who could experience the pure joy of watching a man surrounded by incredible technology consistently fail to notice what's happening right in front of him, while a 10-year-old and a dog quietly save civilization in the background. Cartoon 5, The Real Ghostbusters, 1986.
There's a definite PKE source inside, multiple entities. This could be more dangerous than it looks.
This is a unique scientific opportunity here.
Now that we've technically solved some crimes, largely thanks to a dog and a child who deserve far more recognition than they received, it's time to put on the jumpsuit, charge the proton pack, and deal with something a little more supernatural. Because who are you going to call? I'll let you finish that in your head. You know exactly what comes next. When The Real Ghostbusters premiered in 1986, it set out to prove something, that a cartoon adapted from a blockbuster movie could be genuinely, consistently excellent. Following the enormous success of the 1984 Ghostbusters film, the show continued the adventures of Egon, Ray, Peter, and Winston as they hunted ghosts across New York City week after week. Now, the real in the title was an attitude. It was a legal necessity. A completely separate company called Filmation already owned the rights to a 1970s live-action show, also called Ghostbusters. No relation whatsoever to our guys. So our Ghostbusters had to add real to their name just to be allowed to use their own franchise title. The 1980s were a genuinely strange time for intellectual property law. The voice cast was seriously impressive. Maurice LaMarche brought Egon's dry intelligence to life. Arsenio Hall voiced Winston in the early seasons before moving on. And Lorenzo Music, the voice of Garfield the cat, played Peter Venkman with a wonderfully laid-back delivery before eventually being replaced by Dave Coulier, who most people remember as Joey from Full House. Layers of talent behind those microphones. Slimer deserves his own paragraph here. In the original 1984 film, Slimer was essentially a disgusting antagonist ghost. Loud, messy, unpleasant. The cartoon transformed this green blob into the show's breakout mascot in approximately one season. Suddenly, he was a team pet, a lovable presence, merchandise gold. The character arc from gross villain ghost to beloved icon with his own product line happened remarkably fast, and it was complete, equally disgusting, and completely irresistible. We all wanted a stuffed animal version of something that would logically ruin your furniture. What genuinely set The Real Ghostbusters apart was the show's willingness to actually be scary. This was a children's cartoon that did not tiptoe around the spooky stuff. The Boogeyman episode was legitimate nightmare fuel, a genuinely terrifying concept executed without apology. The Sandman episode made the act of falling asleep feel like a calculated risk. These weren't scary in a campy, wink-at-the-camera way. They were scary in a way that made you think twice about your bedroom at night, and somehow that made the show better. It respected kids enough to take the material seriously. The Ghostbusters franchise has kept moving forward. The 2016 reboot Ghostbusters, Answer the Call, brought a fresh team. The 2021 legacy sequel, Ghostbusters, Afterlife connected directly back to the original film's mythology, and in 2024, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire continued that legacy story. Throughout all of it, the DNA of The Real Ghostbusters, the ghost designs, the expanded mythology, the specific energy of these four very different people working together remains visible. For many fans of the franchise, the cartoon stands not just alongside the original film, but as its definitive expansion. The proof that sometimes the spin-off genuinely matches the source material. And there you have it. 5 cartoons that didn't just fill 30 minutes of our afternoons. They genuinely shaped who we are. He-Man showed us that real strength means protecting people, not just overpowering them. The Care Bears told us that having feelings isn't weakness, and that caring about the world around you is one of the bravest things you can do. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles proved that family doesn't have to look a certain way. Sometimes it's 3 brothers, a rat dad, and a shared commitment to both pizza and justice. Inspector Gadget reminded us that the person getting all the credit is rarely the one doing all the work, and to always appreciate the pennies in our lives. And The Real Ghostbusters taught us that the scariest things are worth facing head-on, especially when you've got the right team around you. Not bad for a bunch of cartoons we watched while eating cereal at 11 in the morning. So tell me, which one hit different for you? Did He-Man's transformation send you running for the nearest broom handle? Did Care Bears quietly teach you emotional intelligence before you even knew what that phrase meant? Did you eat an unreasonable amount of pizza growing up because four turtles made it look like the greatest food ever created? Or did you stay up way too late because a ghost cartoon gave you nightmares and you weren't going to admit it to anyone? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if this unlocked a memory you hadn't thought about in years, share this with someone who lived through it with you. They'll thank you for it. That's what this is for. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, because part 2 is on the way, and we are covering 5 more iconic 80s cartoons that absolutely deserve their moment. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Trust me, you do not want to miss part 2. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go find out if my old lunchbox collection survived the last move. Based on past experience, it absolutely did not.